Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Neeraj Shah. Let's take stock of the situation. It's a quiet day out there. The global news flow first. Actually, quiet from an India perspective. Global news flow first. Oil has jumped as China eases COVID curves in potential boost to demand. China has planned sweeping rescue policies to avert the property crisis, and that may have an impact on metals. Joe Biden is set to meet Xi Jinping with the US Chinese ties frayed. I've used a calmer term here. Most people are saying that they are at the point of no return. Let's see. Of course, Prime Minister Modi is going to visit Bali as well to attend the G20 summit today until the 16th. So, this is where all the action will happen over the course of the next 3 days. And we'll try and get you all the updated stories around what's being talked about at the G20 summit. As much as for us, Prime Minister Modi and his agenda would be important from a global markets perspective, what Joe Biden and Xi Jinping talk about would have a big bearing as well. So that is to be watched out for. So two important things from the G20 summit: what India does and Prime Minister Modi does, and of course what happens between US and China. US markets didn't have a bad day on Friday. You would have to admit, still about 1.25%, 1.5% higher for the Nasdaq, the Dow and the S&P quiet. But the dollar index rebound a little bit after some Fed chairs spoke about how the Fed pivot may not necessarily be as swift as the markets may be making them out to be. So, but at 106.5, still palatable levels. CBOE VIX 22.52, so that continues to grind lower. The US 10-year yield at 3.89, up marginally, but was 3.82 on Friday. So a bit of an uptick from there. But still, all of these are at levels from where where there should be some bit of buoyancy for risk assets. The US futures are trading in the red though, and the SGX Nifty is trading flattish if I'm not wrong. Should come up on your screen. Yeah, very, very flat. Hardly any moves there. But remember, we've had 4 straight weeks of Nifty performance, and therefore you can do with a quiet day for sure, maybe a quiet week for sure as well. Let's look at the trade setup according to me. I think the Bank Nifty holding above 42,000 is the key element for the indices to hold out this week. Remember, Friday didn't have too many cases for the Bank Nifty to do well, but the HDFC twins obliged. That may not be the case today. Really doubt there'll be major follow-up action post Friday's move in the HDFC twins, and therefore the Bank Nifty also has its works cut out. Follow-up buying in IT again may not be likely across the board. If you read amongst other things, Dr. C.K. Narayan's weekly column, there is a talk of how there are one or two names out there which might have some follow through, but not necessarily across the board as per the charts. So if IT doesn't perform and banks don't perform, then what's left? You probably have a Reliance to contend with, and that's probably in a sweet spot, but not too many other heavyweight sectors which have the ability to take the indices higher. So it'll be interesting to see what we do this week. Metals could be in action. Remember, they don't have an impact on the index as much, but metals could be in action because China has released a real estate rescue plan. Also, though, LME's decided against the Russian metal ban. Now, we have conflicting forces at play here, right? China property rescue plan is a big boost for metals, but there was a belief that LME will ban Russian metals. That hasn't happened. And as a result of which, one of the top producers in the US, that stock was down about 4% in Friday's session. But iron ore has jumped today, and therefore there's merit in thinking about how some of the commodity linked names could actually have a good day too. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I would lean towards metals having a good day because of what China has done, and some bit of it played out in Friday's session too. So some bit of a follow through of sorts still likely in today's session, despite a flattish um, index performance on the annual. So all of this to be watched out for. Um, a Keystone Realty IPO opens today, of course, and I would urge people to log in if you want some more clarity about whether or not this is a good IPO to invest into or no. On our website, there is a full all you need to know about the Keystone Realty IPO. Sajid Mangat, my colleague, would have done a good job as he does usually. There will also be an interview with the management of Keystone. So I think you would want to maybe log in and try and read more about this. It's an important IPO. Maybe I should have gotten you updates. I'll try and do that tomorrow about what brokerages are saying. But yeah, if you want to know more about the IPO, you can log into our website and try and read more about this, like Rustam Jipair and Keystone Realty's IPO. So this would be an interesting one to monitor today. It starts today, ends I think 2 days later. Tomorrow, I will get some updates on what to do with Keystone. Any which ways, as a retail subscriber, most people would want to apply if they want to apply only at the last day. So I still have some time. Excuse me for today. A lot of stocks to speak about today, and therefore quickly let me rush to that. First up, off the bat, pharma healthcare continues to look wobbly. I haven't mentioned Alchem Labs here because that too had a very weak thing, but I want to start off with Thyrocare. Now let's stick with Thyrocare, the plate. The consolidated numbers, revenues down 23% at 135 crores versus 176 crores. The Bloomberg estimates were 134. You would argue that's largely in line, but look at the margin performance, look at the bottom line performance. EBITDA margins at 23.4 versus 50.7. The estimates were 28%. It's coming way lower than estimates also, and a sharp gash there. Net profit down 80% at 15 crores versus 78 crores. Now, I had thought that because Metropolis, Dr. Lal, etc., all had a difficult last week, Thyrocare would have reacted to, but Thyrocare has been very, very flat the last 5 days, the last 1 month. So won't be surprised if there is a reaction. Though, Thyrocare is a very atypical stock in that at times it really surprises with its reaction. So be mindful of that. But I would still suspect that there could be some downside here. Aurobindo Pharma, normally I would have said that there'll be a slam dunk on the back of these numbers. Revenue is down 3%, margins at 14.6 versus 20%. Sharp gash lower. The Bloomberg estimate was 16.4. Net profit down 41% at 409 versus 697. The estimates were 599. The only fly in the ointment is that Aurobindo had a sharp 12-13% gash on Wednesday or Thursday, one of the 2 days. And therefore, some smart money preempting this may have already been short. If you look at the futures positions too, I would suspect, I haven't looked at it, but I would suspect that there will be a large OI outstanding on the short side. So you never know, some people might come and cover their short positions today, buy the rumor, or sell the rumor, buy the news because it's the negative news. And therefore, be mindful of that. But the numbers look weak. BHE, a lot of optimism, DAM capital still bullish, etc., etc. But I thought the numbers were wobbly. I mean, execution was weak. There's an EBITDA loss. Revenue is just up about 2%. Really nothing out there. You look at companies across the board, they've all had revenue growth, even if they've had a margin loss. ABB a case in point, but that's still very choosy. Look at across the board, most companies have had a good revenue execution number in Q2. BHEL still lagging on execution. EBITDA loss at 243 crores versus 29.18, a net profit of 10 crores versus a net loss of 67.49 crores. But there's a bunch of anomalies out there too. More importantly, the EBITDA number looks weak, the execution looks weak, and therefore you have to say that it's a bit of a disappointment. I must say though, so I thought the Axis Capital note summed it up well. I'm bringing it up. They say revenue was flat with no pickup in execution even post-COVID. Gross margin 480 basis points down. OCF loss in H1. The management commentary did indicate that execution and profitability challenges shall continue for a few more quarters. That's the point, viewers. Few more quarters. Even if you are a believer, maybe there is time. The good part, though, was that they expect thermal ordering to pick up to 4 gigawatts per annum. And yes, there is a buoyancy towards thermal power or thermal contracts ordering, and that might aid order intake for a BHL. Remember, L&T, none other, in its con call had mentioned that they expect BHL to give stiff competition. But this third line, viewers, a management commentary indicating that execution and profitability challenges continue for a few more quarters, to me, is the clinch line. Be careful with BHL. Delivery, net loss fell, EBITDA loss fell, revenue up 20%. So on both, on delivery at least, Q2 FY23 numbers looked okay. Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, I thought, came up with a good set of numbers. Revenue is up 7% at 3375 crores versus 3147. The Bloomberg estimates were 3060. EBITDA at 622 versus estimates of 541. EBITDA margins at 18.4 versus 17.7%. And net profit up 1% at 260 crores. The Bloomberg estimates were 212 crores. On all counts, you would argue that Glenmark actually beat estimates. A couple of brokerage notes were bullish as well on Glenmark, so do watch out for this one. Amongst all the sad performances in pharmaceuticals and healthcare, Alchem. Um, you look at Thyrocare, look at Aurobindo. I think Glenmark stood out. You never know, it might have a good day today. Patanjali Foods, revenue up 42%, which is good. EBITDA was down though, margins were down, net profit down. Um, Difficult quarter, you would have to admit, despite the revenue uptick. And it's true for most food companies, and therefore this one is no different. Uh, let's see how it does. Thermax, again, decent quarter, you would have to admit. There is a revenue up 41%. The problem was the EBITDA margin, but you would expect that EBITDA margin would be an issue for most companies in this pocket, simply because the input cost pressures would have lasted. You probably have to take heart from the fact that they've done very well on the revenue front. And if indeed the commodity cost pressures ease up in quarter three and quarter four, then Thermax might start showing the margin performance as well. And therefore, maybe I would just classify this as not a bad quarter. Some other result highlights, JK Cement, better cost management led to a EBITDA beat. So good numbers there. Lumax Auto revenues are up 15%. Adjusted PAT was up 33% quarter on quarter. Clearly, there was some bit of margin tailwinds as well for this one. Watch out for this one. G Shipping, standout quarter really. PAT at 769 versus 233 crores. Revenue at 1700 versus 953 crores. Can't find too many faults with this one. Illiquid stock, but good numbers. What didn't do well? Moil. Subdued quarterly performance. EBITDA margin came in at 14.1 versus estimates of 23.3% for certain brokerages. And Viatech Babag, while the profit number looks higher, that's boosted by another income of 20 crores versus 3 crores. So 17 crore other income jump. Margins were down about 100%. Order inflow was very weak towards seasonal, but order inflow was weak. I would suspect that the stock will get some punishment today. Let's wait and watch. So Moil and Viatech Babag, not that great. G Shipping stand out, but JK and Lumax Auto doing okay too. Uh, what else? NDTV has an open offer for the company will begin from November 22 with VCPL, AMG Media Networks, and Adani Enterprises as acquirers. Standard disclosure, of course. The Adani Group is in the process of acquiring 49% stake in Quintillion Business Media, which owns the platform BQ Prime that you're watching currently. So just want to lay that out. And the brokerage calls, I was desperately hunting for three good ones. I got two. There are a bunch of others. Okay, there is three. Sorry, I got a third one also. I missed out on that in HPC. It's been maintained as a buy at MK. The target price has been raised to 51. Ashok Leyland has been raised to a buy at CLSA, target 177. Indian Hotels has been cut to neutral at JP Morgan with a target of 310. What I meant by good brokerage calls is calls where there is some target price activity. A lot of very good reads, by the way. If you really want to read brokerage calls and if you get access, I mean, some of it are there on our website as well, but some very good notes on Mahindra and Mahindra and some others. So you might, Kotak Jeffries on M&M is a very good read if you get a chance to read that, or for that matter, Kotak on Mahindra and Mahindra is a very good read. Kotak on Zomato is a pretty good read too. There's some very good notes there, but we may not be able to display all, but a clutch of brokerage notes on our website in the brokerage notes section. So you might want to kind of tune in for that as well. Have I missed out on something? Let me just try and very quickly tell you if there is stuff that was very, very important that I may have missed out. Let me consult my phone. Aside of the fact that, yes, of course, it's a Children's Day, and to you and your kids, more importantly, a very happy Children's Day, and may the child in you stay alive, of course. But in terms of news flow, yeah, Ashok Leyland apparently is looking at some fundraising in the EV segment. From amongst numbers today, aside of ONGC, there is Bharat Forge, there is Mishra Dhatu Nigam, there is Apollo Tires, Radico Khaitan, NMDC. So those are the ones that you got to watch out for. Yeah, Fortis I thought was a good set of numbers. Yeah, I missed out on that somehow, but Fortis was a good set of numbers. So that's one more to watch out for. Godfrey Phillips was decent. Isgec was not too bad. So those are a few stocks that you might want to again keep in mind, aside from the ones that I've spoken about. Metals, IT, banks from amongst the large cap indices to keep in mind. Thanks so much for tuning in. A bunch of conversations. Okay, there is your query: are we at the peak of margin and sales for paper stocks? No re-rating seen. Um, Sanju, possible, but I thought the commentary from the companies was still optimistic. Some have seen that yes, you can argue that companies always present an optimistic picture, but on the back of what they've done thus far, they've maintained that the momentum may continue on. Even if margins don't climb further from here, um, if, as per what the managements are saying, that they can maintain the margin picture, then the profitability numbers in absolute terms would continue to look okay. And it's not that the valuations are screamingly, egregiously expensive. It's uh, it's a tricky one, but the stocks have done well. But I would suspect that there is more in store based on what brokerages are saying. So do watch out for some of the paper names. Don't be in a hurry. I think the management commentaries, you should hear the management conversations across platforms. They'll probably give you some sense of what kind of continuation in profitability might be there. So do watch out for that. HDFC Bank MSI rumor true. It's not a rumor. You would have to say it is more a calculation put out by various brokerages, Anand, that there is a high probability that this may happen, that the weightage may go up, and therefore that it could be some bit of buying. So it's actually not a rumor, but more a calculated guess by brokerages. Though I must admit that a UBS note did come out over the weekend and said that yes, this is likely to happen, but let's not run ahead of ourselves and let's not be overly bullish. I mean, let's control the emotions. That's what their view was, and therefore that is why I said in the trade setup today that we may not see tremendous follow-up buying into the HDFC Twins post the move that has already happened. So be mindful of that. A bunch of conversations lined up today, so you might want to watch out for those as well. Satush Pai of Hindalco, of course, that's the big voice really from the index, but there is also VA Vabat, there is Astral Poly, there is Bharat Forge, and a clutch of other names. So you might want to maybe watch out for some of these as well in the session today. GRSC is the other one. Amit Kalyani, hopefully at 2:30 p.m. And there Prashant Pitti of Ease My Trip at 3 p.m. So a clutch of conversations lined up on BQ Prime today. Do try and tune in for some of those. And thanks so much for tuning in the trade setup today.